quarterly, list every employee that we are paying from these revenues, what they did, which federal goal their job points toward. You know, this person's doing A, B, and C, this person's doing D, E, and F. Every single vendor that we're expending money from, meaning if we are using some funds to buy a book from McGraw-Hill, we have to say McGraw-Hill provided these books, the ISBN number, et cetera, et cetera. So there's an awful lot of scrutiny over the stimulus money, and unfortunately, because education was the last to receive it, the level of scrutiny is at its very highest. So I think it's fair to say in the next 2 to 3 weeks we're going to be getting together to make our formal application for these funds, and of course working with the school committee on that as well. But we have a lot of work to do to secure these funds and begin reporting on them.
So we will be applying for every dime that's available
So certainly.
all at once.
Sure, okay. Yes, to confirm that, we will, even though this is 2 years' worth of funds, we apply for all of those funds now, and we have to create a spending plan to allow them to know what our intentions are. Now, we need to, I think on Friday morning with finance planning team, we'll be bringing up this subject, but I noticed that there is consideration for a warrant article at October town meeting to create a fund to provide for the use of those funds in FY11. In other words, oftentimes federal money has finite spending limits on it. And we'll further discuss this Friday. The present information we have is that the typical August deadlines for federal money are going to be waived in this case, so that the funds that we receive will be allowed to expend over this 24-month period.
Right.
So it is our understanding now that we will not need town meeting action for carry forward. But we're going to further investigate that and discuss that Friday morning. It was a foresighted move,
Yeah,
but it may not be necessary.
Carl, we probably won't be getting this money till, what, end of the second quarter, or?
Probably.
So we're spending money now like we haven't, correct? I mean, I'm just trying to understand what
Yes,
we're
we are.
doing.
Yes, we
It's
are.
going to be a cash flow problem at town hall, right?
Yeah, what is,
I'm in close contact with the finance director on this matter. We have been told by the Department of Education that, assuming our grant application is in order, the funds are guaranteed. You know, the check's in the mail. I know it
Yeah.
sounds, can you trust that view?
Right.
But I'm confident that these funds will be forthcoming, and I'm hoping that as long as we communicate carefully with the town and work through cash flow models, that the town can handle the shortfall. Remember that the town is committed to a $22 million budget for our general fund, and we won't be spending anywhere near that
Right,
22
right,
million
right.
until the end of the
That's
year.
right.
There's a lot of accounting in the background here, though, in terms of journal entries and moving money around, which is time consuming. But as long as we, I think, before the new calendar year, we'll be fine.
the other comment I have, I guess it's more of a comment than a question, or more of a concern, is it appears that the state's going to make a decision, from everything I've read and heard, on around October 15th, in terms of further budget cuts this year. And what I've read is there probably will be further budget cuts. So my concern is, if they cut local aid or Chapter 70, that they're going to say, oh, we'll just replenish that with ARRA money. And I know there's nothing we can do about that, but I just have because either way, if they cut local aid and they don't replenish it with anything, we're going to have to, look at what we do here. But if they do replenish it with ARRA money, then we'll probably be getting less moving forward. And I think that's an important date that we have to keep our eyes on. I'm just really concerned about that and, the follow-through in terms of getting this money.
And I would just like to, just for the purpose of documentation, again, renew my complete outrage at the amount of scrutiny that there is applied to this. I mean, it is ridiculous. I would actually consider it an invasion of privacy for some of the people that are going to be benefiting from these funds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems like it's almost as expensive to report as it is to a lot of man-hour in order to do it. And to do it correctly, it's almost overwhelming oversight, so. And if we funded education properly in this state, we wouldn't be doing this,
Yeah.
so.
Correct.
Well, I think, I've said before, it's a knee-jerk reaction to some of the other industries, and the lack of reporting,
For the early
accountability, so, I can only imagine they had to create an awful lot of government jobs just to go over the forms you're gonna fill out, so.
Just as an aside, one of the forms we have to fill out each quarter is we have to provide them evidentiary material of who the 10 highest paid employees in our district are.
Why?
Yep,
Well, see, that gets back to the auto industry stuff.
yep.
So even though it's really irrelevant to the intention of the stimulus money, I think it is an overreaction to abuses that may have taken place elsewhere. And that's just one example of the,
It's outrageous.
It is, it's
General
outrageous.
government
Outrageous.
positions,
no,
or
school positions.
just schools?
Outrageous micromanagement, outrageous.
I want to impress upon everyone, we have nothing to hide,
Right,
and we
they're
will
all
public.
provide this
But
information
still, it's just
readily.
more work that
It just gives you a
shouldn't be
sense of,
done.
what is the intention here.
Right.
We will do so honestly and ethically and timely, but it's unusual.
Oh, thank you for that update. Anyone have any other questions on the stimulus, or? All right, next item is our school committee goals that we worked so hard on last meeting. And unless anyone has any specific questions, we can just approve them.
I'll make a motion that we approve the school committee goals for 2009, 2010.
Second.
We're not gonna go over them?
We just
We
wrote
just-
them last
Yeah,
week.
we just did. You wanna
We'll
go?
review them
that's
like
it.
next summer and see how good we do.
Who's second?
Cliff.
Flip.
It's just sad that that superintendent that's responsible for all these items
We'll
won't
have
be
to
you,
change the
David.
goals.
Hey, didn't we just do your goals too?
Yeah.
Didn't do any of those. We did the results.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't do it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
We did a lot of work.
So, Dave, this one, your favorite things to do, you can report on the opening day.
Just a very brief report. This was incredibly, very, very smooth school year. It seems as though the kids have really never left. Everything, children are back to school. We were concerned about having all of the students here on the first day of school. We did not have our traditional 6th grade and 9th grade orientation. Speaking with Mr. Bernard and Mr. Frichet, they felt that it worked very well. I know Mr. Frichet has made some changes here in the middle school in terms of where the teams are located, so that all of the 6th grade subject area teams, they're all located together in the building. And same thing at the high school. I attended the part of the assembly with the seniors, going over the handbook and some of the new policies, including bullying and harassment. So I wanted to be sure that that was spoken about, and it was. Mr. Bernard and Mr. Rosmerick had a PowerPoint presentation for the students.
Good.
And I think the tone for the new school year has started off very well. And same with the elementary schools. Very smooth, very efficient. Our new teachers are getting involved with their classes and being supported by the mentors, so that is going well. I do want to say we still are looking at that kindergarten class at the Hood School. We've had both, interestingly, both the little school and at the Hood School, we had some late arrivals in terms of enrollment. So even though we did some spot redistricting, and you'll see at the little school, one of the kindergarten is now up to 20, and the other one I think is lower than that, but one of the sections. But again, it has to do with the geography where these students are moving in, and I am still concerned about that Hood School. So we've sort of made a commitment. If anyone else new moves in, we're going to watch where they're located, and if they're close to the boundaries, we'll see if we can relocate them to the other two schools.
On enrollment, we're down, I know this isn't the official enrollment, but we're down about 50 or so. Is that where we expected to be, or is that a little bit lower?
It's a little bit lower than where we expected, but I did expect it to hold pretty much the same or drop slightly. The grade level that is the most concern is the ninth grade, in terms of where that grade was as eighth graders last year. So actually seems to be a little lower than where we predicted it to be even last June. So not quite sure what's going on there. I'm working with Mr. Renard to see if we can really track the reasons why students are not continuing on in the ninth grade.
And we still have that really large fourth grade class that's at
Right.
253.
Right.
So the middle school is the only school that showed an increase. We're up about 16 there. But you're right, the high school was that ninth grade class.
The other grade that is lower than expected is actually in the pre-K. As you know, their half-day sections, except one class, the hood school is a full-day section. But in those half-day sections, about 15 children, half of the children are what we call typically developing, and their tuition, they pay a tuition to attend. We had projected, I think 60-something students, typically developing tuition-paying students. It's significantly lower than what we had projected or what we've seen in the past. My sense is that it reflects the economy.
Yeah.
That either people are out of work, they're not either able to afford preschool, or they're placing their children in full-day daycare if they found a job. So I think part of it is attributed to, the fall-off is attributed to the economy.
And was the increase from last year's K to this year's grade 1 about what we usually see?
It's pretty much
Okay.
in line.
So just, so people know, these are the numbers. We have 1,422 elementary kids, 645 middle school.
That's last year's.
Oh, geez, sorry. Here,
Isn't it?
that was good. Can read them, I
Okay.
can't see them.
We have 1,380 in the elementary, is that correct? 661 in the middle school, and 702 in the high school. And I believe our high school was, Jerry, what was when we did the renovation in 91, wasn't it designed for 600 students?
Yeah, I think it was just slightly less than 600 students, actually. I think at the time there were only 550.
540.
Yeah,
But we were designing it for a
600.
population of about 600. And the middle school at 661 has got to be,
Yeah, well beyond.
Well beyond
And-
what-
And it's not just the numbers, it's what you can do.
right.
Science or language
Right.
learners. So North Reading certainly has grown by at least 1,000 students since
Since
Dave
David-
came.
Well, and again, let's remember, we have 6 modular classrooms at the high school, plus a modular cafeteria, and it's in its 7th year, I believe. The middle school has 10 modular classrooms. Bowitt School has 4 modular classrooms that I think are in their 10th or 9th year. And the little school has, it's 1 unit, but essentially 2 classrooms. And that's the oldest unit.
Yes, over 10.
So-
Are we in any, what's the life expectancy, Carl?
I think it depends on how well you take care of them, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of taking care of them. I know districts that think of 15 years as the life of them. I'm confident we'll exceed 15 years because we, with Wayne's leadership, provide a lot of preventive maintenance. We've already done some retiling, some roof repair, and upgrade on the Little and Hood ones. So I think it's fair to say 5, if not many more years.
Maybe a little different than the trailers.
Right, the trailers that we
have
had,
up
the
back.
beautiful wooden trailers. Any busing issues of note?
No, one of the, I think, factors that made the busing go so smoothly this year were that we had a fee structure in place to encourage people to come in
Right.
earlier.
Yes.
And I know that it.
Fee structure.
Fee structure. Well, you know,